Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here on the wrong lead. And man, today is one of the longest days I've had at my job that I've had for I've been there for about 2 years. We had a doing kind of like an in-person conference for a couple things like advancing certain tool sets and skills, soft skills, really working on that kind of stuff. And I know Caleb's going to make fun of me for this, and I'm going to bring in little Caleb here at the bottom. Caleb, I had to wake up at 5:45 this morning. How often do you have to wake up before 6 a.m.?
5 days a week.
Yeah. So I'm over here crying, and then poor Caleb over here basically does it every single day. So, yeah. I normally wake up at 8:45, roll out of bed.
I eat lunch by 8:45.
Yeah, and I'm online for my 9 o'clocks. So 5:45 was pretty rough. I got to do it all over again tomorrow. Yeah, Caleb, how have you been? I saw last night you were on with Trusted Profits and Gino, and had the Preakness draft. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was fun. That's always something I really enjoy doing. Those are a bunch of great guys over there with Matt, Barry, and Gino. So it was a lot of fun. I managed to get Mage again. I drafted second overall. So Mage kind of won me the Kentucky Derby draft that we did. Well, him and Disarm actually, I guess, combined to do pretty well for me. So I think getting Mage again, I feel pretty happy. I took some shots in the Black Eyed Susan. I'm sure we'll talk about that race tonight. But I think there's a lot of interesting prices in there. So I took some shots, and we'll just kind of see how that pans out.
Yeah, and I know, I put the stream to be like Preakness Day, but, I actually really thought that this 2-day sequence was really interesting. And I think that there's some potential to make some money if you get one of the sure to be big favorites out of the way. But speaking of sure to be short prices, man who loves chalk himself, Mr. Mark Capitan. Mark, what did you think? Did you think there's a little bit of potential here in the sequence, or you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fun little sequence. I think some races like the Hilltop, especially, I think there's some price potential. I think if you get around the probably likely very short priced Baffert and the Black Eyed Susan, I think there's also a lot of value there. So no, I think it's a fun little sequence. These 2 days are always hard. You don't know weather, you don't know scratches, so it adds a little bit of extra layer of complexity. But overall, I think it's a fun little sequence. I don't think it pays monstrous, or I don't think you're going to 5-figure payout or anything, but I think it has potential to be a nice little sequence and pay quite well.
Smooth.
Oh
my God, that's it!
I had to do it. You know what's funny?
Doing here?
What's really funny is I was not going to do it until I was jokingly did it before stream, and you were like, I have entrance music. So Andrew, welcome to the Thursday night stream. You're making penance for your fiance's family having a broken car and having to miss our stream 2 weeks ago. But I'm glad all was well, and you were able to join us tonight. So how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I got a couple of quick observations. First of all, Mark, I don't know if you're aware, but Rachel Alexandra is backwards.
Yeah, he's got his video mirrored.
Yeah. Just making sure. I'm just throwing it out there. Okay. Also, no, it's okay. I'm going to make your mood.
It was taken from the infield or something.
Yeah. I'm going to make your mood instantly better. Okay, because Mark, Caleb, it's been a little while since we've all been together, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I had a really good call in April. Did you guys hear about Lord Miles in the Wood paying $120.50?
So drinking game. We all have to drink now.
Okay, bottoms up.
But yeah, Andrew, yeah, and God bless you for having most of this already capped because I didn't like message you until about an hour before the stream what we were going to cover.
45 minutes. It was
Um,
45 minutes.
if it makes you feel any better, Caleb, when did I message you when what we were doing?
When I asked, which was 6:27, so 6:34.
So, yeah, the life's been a little bit of a mess over here in the uh, the Rodriguez area
Hey,
with having to
Rachel's
travel
going the
and
right
everything.
way.
Who's Rachel Alexandra?
Oh God, Josh, there are things that Josh.
Look at oh yeah, Jay. Here we go. Durkin to call the Belmont. I don't know.
Dude,
Andrew, did you catch my tweet earlier today?
I didn't catch your tweet. I caught the news.
Oh, I said, hey, it's a real rags to riches story. The guy who does the ad on for that roast beef sandwich shop is getting a shot to call the Belmont. Because that's the only thing I know Tom Durkin from is that that roast beef commercial from
Wait
Steve
a minute.
Bick.
Get out.
I know
No.
who he
Yeah.
is,
Mark
but like
and Caleb and I can handle this just fine without you.
I know who he is.
Hold
but,
on,
like,
hold on.
I
I'm gonna
don't
have to change
know.
my background now.
I don't know if I've ever like look at I've said this numerous times, and I think I said it even on one of our podcasts, Andrew. I'm like I like watching a race from 2005 does not help me handicap a race in 2023. So
he called races
I
around
know,
the
yeah.
general area here at Saratoga.
Mhm.
And you know how they say don't meet your heroes? Tom
Mhm.
Durkin is the exception to that. As tremendous an announcer as he was, and for my money, he's the best to ever do it, an infinitely better human being. The guy is just absolutely fantastic. Okay.
Stephen Fox saying, who does Andrew think he is, and why is he related to Cooter?
Hang on. Have I missed something on the
No.
Twitterverse? Because I know I know Coots has had himself a day on the Twitter machine.
Yeah, and today
So
not
he
the day.
has.
Today not the day to be compared to Coots.
You know what? There are very few days in which you'd want to be compared to Coots with some of the situations he finds
Yeah.
himself in. Nice
Is that back-
background, Mark.
Me when I had hair and
I was
just,
gonna
like,
say your hair just like went straight down.
it went down. Yeah, it went
I was
straight.
gonna say, who is that guy?
Yeah, right.
And then Uncle Sully here showing up. He has a Delmore on the rocks. You a fan of Delmore, Caleb?
It tastes good. I think it's a little expensive around here for how much I like it, but I wouldn't never turn it down.
It's very expensive for what it is, I think, but it's good. I think it's in the McAllen area for me where it's just a little too expensive for I think what it is, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not as big of a. I feel like I either like the just like the basic 12-year stuff, or some like the more expensive ones. It's similar to bourbon, right? I don't know if like that middle area is much I like to drink, but we could talk Scotch and bourbon all night, and poor Andrew would just have to be drinking his iced tea. Right?
This is Arnold Palmer, by the way.
Arnold
So there's some
Palmer's.
lemonade in here.
So I was half right, literally.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
will-
well put. Well put.
We'll say looping back to the Durkin thing. I don't think there's probably anybody in the industry as a caller who more deserves to be able to call a Triple Crown, Triple Crown winner than he does. He had a couple of attempts where you could just hear it in his voice that, oh my God, he wanted that to happen so bad, and it would be really awesome to see him, get actually have one happen for him. So
Well,
the
my
rumor
question.
on Twitter's churning and saying that First Mission is going to scratch. So he
Yeah,
may
I had
have,
heard that too.
he
Yeah,
may have
but
his shot.
But here's the question though: like, did National Treasure win the Kentucky Derby? Because I don't know how there's going to be a Triple Crown winner if he didn't win the Kentucky Derby.
Josh, just because you
They
were wrong
downgraded
doesn't mean you need to
the Derby to an N1X allowance.
Okay, Mark, Caleb, you guys need a soundboard to counteract Josh's. Mercilessly.
true.
We need a boo button.
No. But instead, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna start going through this 2-day here.
Good idea.
I'm not drunk enough for this yet.
It's gonna start. It's gonna start race 11 here. The Hilltop here. Nice 100K turf race here for fillies, for 3-year-old fillies. You got the 2-1 favorite here, Breathaway, for Christophe Clement and Joel Rosario. And then Yeah, you got a pretty decent field here. I think we got a full field of 12 here for this race. Andrew, since you are not often on the stream, we'll consider you a guest here. We'll let you go first here. Where did you kind of land here?
So the reason I'm going first is because I've got a single in this particular race. It's my best bet of the sequence, both as far as likely winner and as far as value is concerned. I didn't like Breath Away all that much in this particular spot. Anytime I see a closer on the rail, that's a little bit of a red flag. And we probably need to talk about Joel Rosario at some point. I don't know what's going on with him, but he is not riding like the Joel Rosario we know and have come to expect. For some riders, a 12% year isn't a horrible year. For Joel Rosario, it's pretty bad. And when you're a closer on the rail, you need a lot to go right. I can't back this horse at 2-1. I much prefer the double one, almost all the way to the outside. My single is number 11, Well Into, who's trained by Jonathan Thomas. Won 2 in a row at Gulfstream Park over the winter, went to the Appalachian at Keeneland, didn't make the lead, dueled through a legitimate pace that day, and wound up finishing 4th behind 3 horses that would have this field over a barrel. You see Cairo Consort, the second place horse. You see Papilio, the horse that won. Those are good, solid, graded stakes caliber horses. But what I really love, Josh, could you circle that rider for me? Because this is a gigantic jockey switch that Well Into gets in the form of Luis Saez from our friend Mr. Chemino, who I didn't think rode this horse all that badly, but I see Well Into, a horse with early speed in a 2-turn turf race that doesn't have a lot of early speed. Guys, I think Well Into wires the field as the 3rd choice. And if I'm right, that's a separator single for me. Singling the 11 in the 11th on Friday.
I got real bad news for you, and I'm guessing that it's going to be brought in the form of both Mark and Caleb. Do you guys both have the 11?
No.
Whoa.
He's not
Yes!
He's
Okay.
not my top pick, but I like him.
I figured if Andrew and I are both single Aing this horse, that you guys were both going to be on it, and this horse was going to be
Josh,
5
this
to
is
2.
the easiest single A for you of the entire sequence, besides National Treasure.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Andrew said, class doesn't matter until it does, and when you look at the horses that that Well Into ran against last time in the Appalachian here, Papilio and Cairo Consort, and then Heavenly Sunday came back to win next time out. And I mean, the aforementioned jock upgrade, going from just, I mean, I know Uncle Sully's here, and we tend to like to trash jocks when he shows up, but I learned a couple of skills today at this workshop, and I think we're just going to leave what does need to be said left unsaid. But Luis Saez on the front end in the turf route. Tell me if you've heard the story before. Yeah. I just love this 11 here in the spot.
So how are you saying that Luis Saez is going to be on the lead in this race when the horse to the inside is clearly substantially faster early? And I'm such shocked that Josh isn't on the 10 after 8. It seems like the Joshiest of Josh horses, right?
You think that this horse is going to be faster?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so.
I think they have one way to go. They have to go to the front end. And I think that horse has more early speed than Well Into.
Yeah, but
maybe I'm crazy though.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that the 11 is slightly cheaper, or slightly less cheap, more expensive speed than the 10 is. But I don't know. I mean, you could be right. I just think that no matter what, this horse is going to be on the lead. Whether or not he's going to be alone on the lead, I don't know. But I think this horse is going to be on the lead, and I think that he's at least shown enough quality in his previous starts. And with Luis Saez getting aboard, I think that's just a huge upgrade there. So, but yeah, I mean, I kind of want to see how the track is playing a little bit, and I kind of want to see what the actual price on this one is. I do have a question mark on it. I do kind of like the one, but this is kind of the type of spot where if this one really is 2-1, and I'm not sure he's going to be. But if this horse really is, 2-1 or even shorter, this is one I'm just going to leave off, and I'm just going to go ahead and just single at 11. If I get a little bit better of a price on this one, or if I see that the turf is playing to closers and maybe speed's dead on the turf, then maybe I zag a little bit here. But the one was really the only other horse in this race I was interested in. I looked at a couple of these other ones, and they were just kind of not for me. And I think we talked a little bit earlier about the sequence. Um, there's one horse that I think is looking extremely tough later on in the sequence. That if I'm gonna use a short price horse, I'm gonna have to be real skinny in a couple other legs. So I'm trying to keep it skinny here with just the 11 and maybe a little bit of the 1. But Mark, since I took your job as the semi chalk eating weasel in this race, where did you kind
Chalk
of
eating
land?
weasel. The horse is 5-1.
Yeah, but I'm probably going to use the 1 a little bit. Maybe I'll do a little bit of
Okay.
I'll do a 1 alarm.
So
Defensive
he's
B
already
there.
setting himself up for some defensive Bs. Yeah.
Yeah. There
we go.
Well,
Okay.
well done, Josh. Well done. So Josh, scroll up to the number 3 horse, a Spray. A Spray is going to be actually my top choice in this race. I actually think there's a fair bit of speed in this race. There's a couple of horses here that I think really have to go. So I want somebody who's going to be coming from a little more out of it. Again, I'm going to have to see how the track's playing, as Andrew's already mentioned. I think Josh mentioned it as well, where, if speed is extremely friendly, this is probably not the horse I land on. But Flavien Prat have been, oh, come on. So Caleb
How
can
many
do
alerts
that.
do you guys have on this show?
Caleb can do that. You can't do that. If Caleb wants to give me crap for taking the Tampa horse, he's 100% can do so. Josh, you're not allowed. No, I mean, this is the horse that I think has the right run style, given how I think the pace complexion is in this race. Horse is 2 for 2. Albeit at Tampa. Say what you will about those races. Speed figures came back pretty good, and Flavien Prat apparently had choice in this race and ends up riding this horse. I thought
Flavien Prat had choice.
Well, he's he's not at Santa Anita, so he can apparently ride now, and he's gotten over his little funk or whatever it was, where he forgot how to ride for like a month or 2 there, and he's actually been doing pretty good numbers wise. So I think a Spray at 8-1. I'm hoping the board kind of ignores this horse because it's one of the ones that a little more lightly raced. I like horses that like to win. The pedigree is definitely there. This should get the right kind of trip, and I think it's just a really interesting player in this race.
Uncle Sully said, "Oh no, mandatory sensitivity training workshop this week." The funny thing is one of the things we talked about was being authentic, and all I could think about is like, man, being authentic. And didn't he lose the Preakness after winning the Derby that weird 2020 year? Right?
We all try to act like the COVID year didn't happen.
Yes, exactly.
Was that the year? I know Secret Oath won, but I can't remember. Was it authentic?
Swiss Skydiver.
Swiss Skydiver.
I'm sorry, Swiss Skydiver. Yeah,
that was that year. Remember, because Bob was like, "Yeah, he was such a gentleman. He just let the filly pass." Caleb, where did you land here?
Yeah, this is a fun race because I think we all sort of went different directions, and I guess my opinion here is sort of a combination of everything that's been said. I do agree with Mark that I saw this race as having a decent bit of speed in it. I do think the 10, just based off of the race that she ran last out, is quicker than anything the 11's run. Now, as a function of tactics, jockeys, post, whatever else, I mean, will the 10 be up there on the lead ahead of the 11? I don't know. But this horse is seriously fast. And I think the fact that they're both in here sort of compromises the chances of the other one, especially when you look at a horse like the 5, who has no chance, but very well could be forward, or the 12, who's going to have to send from that parking lot post draw. So I saw a decent bit of speed in here, but I also sort of agree with Andrew that the 1 didn't do a whole lot for me, especially as what is likely to be the chalk. So I ended up on another horse just to the outside, the number 2, Aunt Shirley. This is a horse that was a private purchase and then put into the Todd Pletcher barn. Started off on dirt, was able to sit in pounds for the Rudy Brissett barn, winning first time out. So then came back in the spin away, was just probably a little bit too much too early, didn't run. Horses tend just not to run in that race sometimes. I don't really worry about it. But then, Pletcher gets this horse, trains her over the winter, brings her back in a turf stakes at Gulfstream, and she ran a nice race. I mean, she was 5th, but she was beaten less than 3 lengths. You figure the winner, Breathe Away, was 2.5 lengths clear. So really, she was only a quarter of a length out from being second in that race. And that's a race that Time Form has the first fraction coded as extremely quick. The early pace figure for that first call was 143. So the entire race was pace adjusted due to the hot. The final time was pace adjusted due to the hot pace. The race totally fell apart. The horses that won that race, first, second, third, were 9th, 5th, 7th, and 6th at the first call. So horses kind of against it from the flow. I think Irad is not going to send this horse again. I'm actually amazed he sent the horse in the first place. So if Irad can take a more patient ride here, I think he can get a really nice trip behind some of the other speeds and kind of get first run on the deeper closers. So I went with Aunt Shirley here, second off the layoff, getting Lasix for Todd Pledger.
Is Irad off the snide again yet, or is he still?
He was fine at Belmont like last weekend, I think.
Yeah, but how do you do it at Indiana Grand, which is the true test of jocks?
He had a rough Indiana Grand going.
Horseshoe Indianapolis, right?
Oh, sorry, Horseshoe Indianapolis.
Yes, Horseshoe Indianapolis.
Indiana Downs, right? Isn't that what it was called before?
Yeah.
Depending on what ADW you use, it could be named any one of those three things.
That's true. I did see in the chat, Charles. Charles likes a long shot here. The 9 missed New York, broke maiden at Gulfstream on Polytrack in the route, stalked the pace close, ran good at Turfway. Who thinks that this might have an upset chance here with Paco. Ran 4th in that Bourbon at Oaks. I mean, pretty far back, but I don't know. Did you guys give this horse a look at all?
Not really. I like the fact that this horse is getting Lasix back after the start last time out, but I just don't think the Bourbonette Oaks came back all that well. That day's winner was a buzz horse going into the Kentucky Oaks. Didn't do a whole heck of a lot of running on that particular occasion. I can't fault anybody for looking for a price in here, especially with a favorite that most of us think is pretty vulnerable, but I prefer others in this spot.
So 2 points. One is I think Miss New York needs to probably go back to dirt, considering her best race was on dirt, speed figures wise. So it seems like that's what she wants to handle. And also, I know we're talking about trying to get away from a short priced favorite in the one horse. I don't really know if that horse ends up taking as much money as we're assuming. I have a feeling that's just a really terrible morning line, and that this board ends up being, 4 or 5 of these horses that all, maybe end up in that 7-2 sort of range, 3-1 to 7-2 kind of a range. And I can see that 4 or 5 of them ending up there. And I think we've kind of mentioned all of those horses. So
one last horse I do kind of want to mention is our friend CJ Thoroughbred's horse, the 7 Hang the Moon. If you really do think that this pace is going to be hot and is going to set up for a closer, this horse had a bit of a late kick at Fairgrounds in January, came back in March in a $75,000 stakes race, and looked like was kind of inside. And I don't really think that was the place you wanted to be on the turf. I mean, we saw a lot of those horses winning on that outside rail. So I don't know if this is. I'll have to go back and watch the replay on it. This was more just kind of like, looking, if you think this is going to be a hot pace, this is one of the closers in this race. Gets Tyler aboard, which is interesting because I think he's one of the more competent turf jocks out there. And Michael Stidden knows how to train a turf horse. So did you guys give this 7 a look at all?
I give him a glance, Josh, simply because of what you mentioned, is that I didn't watch the replay. The comment says saved ground. So as you alluded to, inside on the fairgrounds was pretty much not the place to be on the turf in most of the meet. So I gave him a look. She does need to run faster, but at the price, I don't mind projecting improvement. Not one that ultimately made my short list, but come tomorrow, I'll go revisit her, and she might make a ticket or two.
And we also did we talk about this other Chad Brown horse?
That's another one that I was going to bring up if anyone liked.
I was up and down on that one.
Maidenbreaker Maidenbreaker last out, first time versus winners, right? Never the best angle. There is a price that we're up and down, makes a lot of sense. There's some statistics, second off over a long layoff. Chad is extremely high percentage. I mean, Chad is very high percentages all the way around. A horse that Yeah, would make a lot of sense in here. I just think you have to get the right price. 6-1 for me is just not that right price. It's probably closer to 10-1.
So you mean, okay, Chad runs a horse at Tampa. So we're gonna do like the what was it, that Drake meme, right? Horse runs at Saratoga and Keeneland. You're gonna do this one, and then you're gonna do the point. You're gonna do the point at the Tampa horse.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I'm doing right
Okay.
now. Yep,
I was just
yep,
making
I'm
sure.
doing that. Yep. Yeah. And I will say, Josh, before you move on, I did really quick mention the 10 after 8, and I know Caleb sort of mentioned that horse as being a major pace presence. If this track comes up very speed favoring in some of these early turf races, I don't hate that horse's chances in here. The figures came back very good for that. For that effort at Keeneland, where the horse wired the field. I don't think the horse takes any money. Probably drifts a little bit. Interesting player at a bigger price in here. That wouldn't be a shocker wearing this.
I'd be shocked.
Me too. By the way, Josh and I have agreed more on this show than we have in the past 30 editions of Drank Champagne combined. So you're seeing some history on this stream.
It almost came to blows last week.
It wasn't quite coming to blows. It was you couldn't keep up with my mind. Come on, let's get this right.
Here we go.
Goodness. And actually, Anil, before he's talking about well into, that was the horse that we liked, right? Yeah, the 11. Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah. We're all over that. We're all over well into. Okay.
Single for me, lone A for Josh.
All right, let's move on to race 13 here, the second leg of this pick 5. This is going to be the Black-Eyed Susan, and lo and behold, the Miracle is scratched, right? Okay, I thought I saw somewhere where Todd said
I think
Miracle's definitely scratched. I thought both Todds were scratched.
Yeah, both Todds are out.
Who's the other Todd?
Frosty
Tool the 5. Okay, I didn't look at that horse anyway, so no one cares.
Yeah, it doesn't have an E in it.
Yeah, exactly. Right here's an E. The return of Feza here at 7-5. Flavian Pratt and Bob Baffert teaming up here. This horse is probably going to be what, 2-5, 3-5, maybe.
Even money, I'd say.
Yeah, even money.
Really? Who else do you think takes money in here?
Merlaza, Hoosier Phillies always take out Reducer. Sacred Wish will come down a little bit, I think.
It's a 10-horse field. I find it hard to believe that FaZe is going to be odds on.
I don't know, man. People love Bob. So, Caleb, as noted, I'm going to hit all the hard legs and fade the chalk in one leg and just pay the price for it. Tell me how you're going to get around FaZe on this race.
Oh, yeah, I'm not using FaZe on this race.
I love it. I love it.
Not at all. I need to see her do it against a different horse. I need to see her beat somebody who isn't And Tell Me No Lies or Pride of the Nile, because that's basically all she's done in her career. And Tell Me No Lies ran in the Oaks and ran terrible.
To be fair with And Tell Me No Lies, her big run came the day before when she ran all around the greater Louisville area after getting away from her handlers in the paddock.
That is true.
And FaZe also beat Justique. Remember, FaZe also beat Justique, who was the best horse in the world last summer.
Princess Noor 2.0. Yeah. FaZe could win. She's mildly the best on paper, and I wouldn't even say significantly. I mean, her figures are slightly better, at least on time form and Thorograph. Her figures are slightly better than what some of these other horses have run, but they're not so much better that it's going to correspond with the way that I think she's going to get bet in this race. I don't think she wins this race 50% of the time. I think she wins this race 25, 28% of the time. And I'm not going to use a horse that's that big of an overlay. I just can't. So I'm not using Feza. I recognize that with the scratch of Miracle, she is going to be extra tough since she could be up there kind of loose. But I just need to see her do it outside of California against actual competition and try to get around her, because I don't buy her races. I don't buy her figures. I think she's beaten up on some what's the word of the week? Tomato cans. So just not for me. Instead, I actually like a horse at a price in here. It's actually a horse just to her outside, the number 10 Taxed. And this is a horse that admittedly is not a win machine, but has been really good since getting claimed by Randy Morse. Came back and ran a fine race in the year's end, and then went into the Martha Washington and ran a huge race against Wet Paint, who she's had the misfortune of running into 3 times in a row. Yeah, Jay, that's I'm doing you a solid. But yeah, Tax ran a big race, 3 back in the Martha Washington, caught in extremely sloppy track, and probably just didn't quite handle it in that Honeybee. But then came back and showed she was no worse for wear, paired up her career top in the fantasy, and I think she is definitely sitting on a forward move in this race. Is it good enough to win? We'll see, but I think she's going to move forward, and I don't think that her best race to date is really that far behind what Feza has done. So if Bejarano can work out a trip from the post there, I think that she makes a lot of sense in here. I don't know if you get 15-1, but I really like her in this spot.
Interesting. Mark, where are you going?
Yeah, so much like Caleb, I'm gonna be tossing Feza, however you say it, which is probably extra good for Jay. Do you double down on the backing up the truck on that horse now? But no, I'm gonna be against Feza. For all of the reasons Caleb said, and I'll talk a horse that probably no one else in here is gonna talk, and it will make Caleb laugh. So let's go to the number 3, Hoosier Philly. Hoosier Philly to me is a bit of an interesting horse in this spot, given the fact that, and I know it's been somewhat reported around, but she had a minor surgery on her throat performed after those 2 lackluster performances. And I think it was right after the Fairground Oaks. And she seems to be training like a very, very different horse after that. Now, this is going back to my ownership days, we had a horse that had the exact same surgery done. And she was a horse that was a very good workout morning horse, and she just never really fired. She had early speed, but she faded really badly late when we put her on the track. And after that, all of a sudden, she had a lot of staying power, won a bunch of allowances down at Aqueduct, and she was a really good horse for us. So, Tom Amos, I think, doesn't he spots his horses in appropriate spots. I think Hoosier Philly has a good bit of tactical speed here. I don't really know who ends up on the lead in this race. I think the pace complexion is a little bit interesting in here, but I think given the surgery, given that Amos seems fit, to put her back in the spot, I think she's a really interesting sort of outsider horse.
Wasn't she really just kind of an early bloomer, though? I mean, didn't she just kind of fall off a cliff?
I mean, that's always a valid argument. Or she had a breathing issue, also a valid argument.
Did who is the Amos horse that we won a lot of money on, Mark?
Serengeti Empress, is that the horse you're going with?
Did she also have a
no, she
surgery?
bled.
She was a bleeder.
Huh? Yep,
Okay.
she bled, had a really flopped race the race before the Kentucky Oaks. But it's a situation where you watch certain trainers you kind of trust to put horses in the right spot. And I think those are, I don't think that horse is here unless she's live.
I tried to get there. I really did. And I don't know, man. Those last 2 races are really freaking bad. And I think sometimes, like, maybe I heard the same thing like you were talking about. I think it was it Matthew that mentioned it last night?
Yeah, that's when I heard about it.
Yeah, and I mean those works look good, but I mean she had those same works when she fired those duds as well. So I don't know. I don't think the price is going to be there to take a flyer on it.
Yeah, I guess my argument was, when I looked at the filly that we had, it was a similar thing. She worked out good in the morning, and then she get to the track and had kind of no, she didn't have any finish. She faded very badly late, and that seems to be sort of what's happened in Hoosier Philly's last 2. So I'm wondering, is that breathing issue going to straighten that out, and all of a sudden she'll be breathing better and getting oxygen in her system and not have that big fading problem. So yeah, I'm super interested in Hoosier Philly in this spot.
So we're going to be scratching the 6. We're going to be scratching the 5. And that really leaves you with, man, I think it is going to be tough. I mean, Feza is going to be pretty loose out there, it looks like, or at least going to have, I think, things all her own way. I did kind of go a slightly different direction with the 7 comparative. And at least on the Briz figures, that last race fits in with anything that Phases run. Now, the one thing I will say about Phase is it seems like Phase has been getting better and better and better since going. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if Phase just runs off the screen here. But I don't know. The 7 comparative, I think, kind of fits in here. It worked a bullet last time out. Won a race that, I mean, she should have won in that optional claimer at Keeneland, but second off the layoff. Louise Tsai is aboard, who's been riding lights out for Brad Cox. I think if anyone upsets Feza, it might be an outsider for a new shooter here, like comparative here, the 7. I don't know.
New shooter, everybody drink.
Oh, God. Either you guys like the 7 here, or any of you guys?
Either of you. Ouch, that hurts, Josh.
I know you didn't.
No, I have the horses at B, so you should be good.
I did not like it.
You did not.
I don't believe the last race. I mean, she ran the same race 6 times in a row, and then steps forward with a race like that. I have to see it again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Likewise, prefer others.
So it means I'm getting my price. Good. That's all I need to hear. Andrew, who did you like here?
Sure. So hold up on the mortgage and the Jag and everything that the person who really loves Feza was looking at, because Feza is far and away to me the most likely winner, all things being equal. The horse has done very little wrong. I cannot penalize that horse for anything, and she's not going to have to be a whole lot. Okay. All right. We're going to play that game. Okay. Can you see the past performances that I have here? These are not DRF past performances. These are past performances you can get at Twin Spires.
Look, I'm just saying that
alert and shove it.
I'm just saying the same alerts I have set up for Mark seem to fit very well with you, Andrew. I don't know what it is, but
hey, whatever the case may be,
it's the upstate New Yorker in us.
Very well could be. By the way, for those that are curious, the Simpsons song about upstate New York, incredibly accurate.
Oh, anyway, extremely. It's spot on.
Yes. Phase is the most likely winner, but me singling the 11 in the first leg of this sequence allows me to spread a little bit elsewhere. And I got to use Hoosier Philly in this particular spot on the off chance that, forget about the neck thing, forget about anything else. Maybe she just doesn't like fairgrounds. And fairgrounds is a really quirky surface, both dirt and turf. If you guys can figure out the fairgrounds turf course, more power to you, by the way, because I can't. Anything with 9 furlong races that are typically run in 154, I have absolutely no idea what I'm looking at. Absolutely none.
In fairness, this year, it felt like fairgrounds was extremely weird.
Yes,
like just the entire meet, the dirt and the turf. I couldn't get a whole. Yes. I couldn't get a handle on anything.
It wasn't as weird as Keeneland, but it was weird.
And speaking of upstate New York, our friend Kevin here is saying, "What about Uncle Bob treating Feza with baby gloves? Most soft-spotted Cali horse of the year."
So I can actually answer this a little bit here. Michael Lund Peterson made the decision to not move Feza to another barn where that horse could potentially get Kentucky Oaks points. So as a result, they could afford to pick and choose their spots. And Michael Lund Peterson is a Maryland guy. It makes sense that this horse is running here. I understand it looks like it's one soft spot after another, but that's not Feza's fault, I don't think. It's a case where I think if that horse had been moved to, say, a Tim Yakteen, she winds up getting campaigned a little bit differently and a little bit more aggressively. Still, Feza should win, but I've got to use Hoosier Philly at this price in this particular wager, because if my single gets home and Hoosier Philly winds up winning this race at, say, 8-1, 9-1, whatever she's going to go off at, and I don't have it, and I wind up going 4 out of 5, I am going to do what a former announcer did and quit the sport for a minimum of 6 hours.
Then come back as a consultant.
It's good work if you can get it. I'm not knocking the hustle.
That's right. Did anybody look at the number 8 Balpool? That's a horse that I had down as being really fast, but I'm just so skeptical of those Aqueduct figs, and then the one Lure race in between. It's like the princess of fake figures. So, I mean, in a race without a clear leader, this is one of the 3 or 4 I think that have a shot to be out there. I mean, what'd y'all think of her?
I liked her there.
One turn I would like her, but 2 turns by uncaptured.
Yeah, that was my
I don't
question
think
too.
so.
That's
You
fair.
just told me that the fig on the last race of the 7 was fake, and now you're trying to tell me a horse that ran an Aqueduct and Laurel that those figs are real.
I just told you they were fake. That's why I'm questioning it.
Yeah, again, if you trust the figures, sure, the horse makes some sense. Again, it's another one of the. I think there's, if you kind of cross a line, pretend that FISA is not in this race, it's one of those horses that is usable. You just have to sort of decide what is the right price on that horse, and it's for me at least a little bit more than the morning line.
Yeah. Honestly, the eight plots out really well on optics. I had it pulled up earlier. Apparently, for some reason, when I share my entire screen and not just my the PPs, my like entire video freezes for some reason. But yeah, the eight plots out super well on optics. So I thought might be an alternative to the 9 here, but. And I just really like the 7's last race, and I know I'm banking a lot on one fairground fig or Keeneland fig, but
The horse does, like, they got knocked off 2 in a row. It always scares you when you see, somebody like Cox take forever for a horse to break its maiden. But yeah, I mean, I don't, I think you're getting there logically, Josh. So there's a right to take out an outsider if you get past the Bob show.
anything else in here? No. So is officially nobody using Phasa, or is it just Andrew?
Well, I would
Josh,
say
I know
there's
you're using
Oh,
Phasa.
well, of course, Mark is. Wait, I don't know why I thought that wasn't happening. All right, Mark, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think we probably should talk about Merlaza, the 4, who's the one horse that we really haven't brought up, who I thought was another interesting player in this spot. Horses rattled off 3 in a row. Speed figures might be a little bit light, and this is one that looks like Cox maybe was slightly ducking some of the bigger races with. But, Brad Cox, Florent Giroux, horse that has the pedigree to say this is probably the right trip. A lot of things to like in a horse that you're probably going to get some semblance of value for in this race. So I thought Merlaza was an interesting player here.
Probably second pick, I'm guessing, but I agree. I think she's
Yep.
interesting in here, and
Yep.
I'll use her.
Seems too slow for me, especially at her likely price. I get where you're coming from. I get it's a connections play in part, but I see that Briz speed figure a 78 last time out. That scares me.
Yeah, I would say it seems like only Briz didn't like that figure. I mean, she's a tick slower than some of the other major players in here on everything I look at, but she's not not way out of it figures wise.
I mean, it was a very slow pace in that race. So if you're looking at a raw figure with no manipulation like Brisnet, it's going to look slow. Time form upgraded it 10 points. Thorograph doesn't really upgrade it either, but they just kind of, I think, somewhat inherently had it slightly faster. So I think I'm not scared off by that fig. In fact, I think it's impressive that she overcame that pace. 24 and 50 going a mile at Oaklawn is crawling. For her to come from 5th to get up for a win there, I thought that was a nice run.
Upstate Kevin again coming in saying the big races over the next 2 days have come back incredibly underwhelming, and it's a shame the large pools will be wasted on them. And man, I like. I feel I kind of feel bad for Pimlico getting stuck in the middle of all this Triple Crown nonsense, because I know we talked, and Andrew, we talked at length about this last week about the 2 weeks for the Triple Crown races, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. It's not just the 2 weeks for the Triple Crown races. I mean, all of the stakes races that they have on Kentucky Derby Day, those horses probably not going to be ready to run until Belmont Day, 5 weeks after. So
Well,
I feel like you get a couple of horses shipping in who won stakes at Keeneland or stakes quality horses from Keeneland. You obviously get the local horses, right? I'm sure Brittany Russell will have a horse that wins some listed stakes on here at a decent price. But yeah, I don't know. I looked briefly at some of the races on Saturday, and you just see like some real short price favorites, and obviously there's value if you get around it, right? But you know, I don't know. All I can think about is that pick six at Pimlico Preakness Day when Justify won, and it was a 20-cent jackpot, but I think it was a force out, and it paid I think a grand total of like $60.
Yeah, I mean,
Ooh.
So I don't know, like that's always on the table, right?
yeah, I guess, I understand where, I listened to the Drinking Champagne episode, and you guys have very valid arguments about absolutely everything that you said, regarding, it's not the Triple Crown. The Triple Crown's always had the same scheduling, or has been back to the 1940s. And there's clearly a problem from the breeding industry. There's clearly a problem in what we are buying as far as horses. Owners are paying big money for these horses that, show a brilliant 10 furlong or 10-second 1 furlong work BS, right? And everybody's pointing towards the Derby. But you have another major problem, and this is what Pimlico to me epitomizes, is that look at the purses. The Black Eyed Susan's a $300,000 race. Why go there? Why would you go there when you can wait a week or two? And I mean, hell, you can get that's a freaking, why stress your horse out? Why put them in the deep end of the pool for something that doesn't mean anything? If the purses are that small, trainers and owners are going to race horses very lightly. You look at somebody like American Pharoah. What do you make? They made like $80 million the first year he's in the shed on a horse that made $10 million on the track. When you're making eightfold the first year, it's yeah, Andrew, exactly. Why would you risk putting that horse on the track until
I
purses
prefer tenfold to eightfold, FYI.
whatever, until purses
Yeah.
massively increase to keep up with it? The fact of the matter is, we're going to keep breeding to horses that show brilliance in a 1 furlong work and are able to run fast on the first Saturday in May. And quite honestly, from my perspective, the Derby is a BS race. Why do we care about 3-year-olds running fast that early in their 3-year-old campaign? Horses are faster at 4 and 5 than they are at 3. It's a stupid race, and the entire Triple Crown in and of itself is kind of a stupid thing that's a legacy of the past. There's my rant.
I think somebody needs to put Mark to bed. Maybe some warm milk, something that grumpy old men drink.
I even agreed with you. God.
Some
Now-
more milk with some honey, maybe.
I've
There
got
you
two notes here. I got 2 notes. First of all, it irrationally grinds my gears that the Black Eyed Susan got moved to 1 1/8 from 1 3/16. I remember the old Triple Tierra series. That was the Kentucky Oaks the day before the Derby, the Black Eyed Susan the day before the Preakness, and the Coaching Club American Oaks the day before the Belmont, going 1.5 miles. Talk about how times change, right? The Black Eyed Susan has wound up getting lost in the shuffle. The other thing you mentioned about how we breed horses, how we sell horses. I saw something today that I just need to talk about for just a minute, and then we can get back to this sequence and go into the Saturday races. Fasig-Tipton put out an ad for the Mid-Atlantic sale, which is coming up next week. And they advertised that Mage sold at that sale. Fine. Wonderful. Good business. The work they showed, they bring I got to get my hands right on this because it's mirrored, but they bring the horse in from this side. And the very first thing you see when the horse comes on the screen is the jockey windmilling the horse. What are we doing?
Yeah. What are we doing?
What the heck are we doing here? You're telling me that horse wouldn't have sold for a decent amount of money if the horse had just jogged or galloped down the stretch? Come on. What are we doing? And why is it that 1 furlong winds up being the most important race 2/3 of horses that sell at these sales will ever run? Isn't that backwards? And that's my rant.
Yeah,
Well,
I was going to say,
Go ahead, Mark. Fine. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and this is the thing where you have them trying to get these crazy fast 1 furlong works that are going to therefore massively inflate the sale price, because but people are willing to pay that because they know horses that can do that at a young age are going to be those horses that are ready to run in something like the Kentucky Derby early, very fast, early on in the 3-year-old season. So we've given up on longevity. We've given up on breeding quality. We've given up on breeding horses that could run a lot. We've given up on breeding horses that are sound. We don't care about that anymore. We're purely breeding for this stupid sequence of races that in the grand scheme of things hasn't historically been a great producer of progeny, right? Like there, it's just it's
Good
an
point,
absolute
Kevin. Good point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we're effectively breeding quarter horses. That's what we're going for these days.
I do appreciate at least Caleb laughing at my tenfold joke, since Preakness Day, my Justify over Bravazzo tenfold try paid buckets. So yeah, Mark, I went there.
So
You
we've had
did.
a Lord Miles reference and a tenfold reference so far in
Yep.
this show. Adjust your scorecards accordingly.
Also, I'm going to Vegas next weekend, and a man by the name of Florida Craps Shooter shows up in chat. So I feel like this is just perfect, because I've been listening to a bunch of craps podcasts lately. So I got some new systems I'm gonna be playing out. Caleb
God.
unlocked some degeneracy in me because I only played the pass line and come bets, and I didn't realize there was other, like, you could just bet numbers. And so Caleb just like unlocked this huge thing to me when he showed me what he did. He also proceeded to just completely, just like, I don't know, just torpedo all my craps winnings by me having way too much money on the table. But
Did you have fun?
I mean, it was very fun. It was very fun.
See, there's an old comedy routine from somebody that played Vegas that said, "You want to know how to play craps? I'll teach you how to play craps. You put your money down, they pick it up."
Yeah, let's keep moving on here. So leg 3 is the 5 furlong turf sprint, the Jim McKay turf sprint here, 100K race. This race is always pretty fun because you get a bunch of local horses kind of sticking around. You get some bigger horses kind of shipping in here. But you don't get, obviously you don't get the A tier horses, but Grateful Bread runs in this race like every year, doesn't he? But you got a nice full field of 13 in this race. So Mark, I'll let you go because you're the unluckiest person I know, and there's 13 horses in this race, and I feel like it's a great fit. So where did you kind of land here?
I'm the unluckiest person you know.
No,
Wow,
probably
Ouch.
not.
that is
No, that's our
that
friend
that
Stephen
hurt.
Fox. Let's be honest. All right, but
Okay. That is, yeah, but I mean, still, it's if I'm a close second, that's a little scary. No, of course, Josh picks a race where I have really nothing super creative to say in here. I think this is a race where I thought the morning line was kind of right. I think the race really goes through two horses, and that's through well, I guess three horses, but one of them got an absolutely abysmal draw. In those two horses are Nothing Better and Artemis City Limits. I think they're the best horses in the race. Again, this is another case of this is $100,000 race that's a black type. Are there a lot of horses, a lot of betting entries? Sure. So you probably get, some value here, but I just did, I thought those two just, Nothing Better and Artemis City Limits really just sort of towered over the rest of the field in this race. And the other horse I was really interested in was drawn very outside, and that's Beer Can Man. I think, Flavian is going to have to do a lot of work to invent a trip from out there. A horse that's a really cool horse. I've always really kind of liked the horse, but I think he's up against it given the draw. So those are the horses I was most interested in. Nothing super creative. Hopefully you guys have some sort of outside player that I'm interested in, and I'll mark down. But just kind of felt like it was a pretty logical race, and just how it looked on paper was how I thought it would play out on the track.
if by outside player you mean the two outside horses, then yes, because I do like the 13 Beer Can Man. I share the same thoughts as you, but I think what I'm looking for in this race is a horse that's done it at 5 furlongs. And Beer Can Man fits that. I know he hasn't run it in what, two and a half years, or 2 years at least. But I think second off the layoff for Phil D'Amato here, I think he's definitely going to be kind of all cranked up. Take that how you will. I actually really like the 12 for Juan Avila here, breakthrough. JJ gets up, and you know, I don't know, Mark. I'm kind of surprised you don't like this horse. Don't you like JJ getting up for trainers that he
Anybody?
doesn't always get up for all the time?
I do. I just, I mean, you are right. I do like horses that are a bit of these sort of trip specialists. I just, the horse is just way too slow on any metric that I seen. JJ has to find about 10 points on time for him, and as much as I think he's the kind of player who can, kind of jock that can invent a trip, and the horse, has some wins that are a little more recent than some of the shorter prices. Just feels like he's kind of an outsider here.
There's two. I mean, you already talked about nothing better. I like the horse in this spot. I will say the one horse I absolutely want nothing to do with is the 3 Artemis City Limits, just because I don't think this is a 5 furlong horse, and 5 furlong horse, and you're getting the real short price on it. So I think that's going to be kind of the fade in this spot. But I got 4 horses I like in this spot. I'll let Caleb talk. So I don't, because in case he does like the other horse I like in here. So
I'm going to be remarkably skinny in this race, given how wide open it kind of looks like on paper. And you guys have both touched on the horses I'm going to use. I think Nothing Better is probably the horse to beat. To me, seems to be speed of the speed. Inside Draw has to go. Ran a really nice race at Aqueduct last time out. And then the bookends, Beer Can Man, which Time Informer is showing him as an AE. I don't know. Is he in the main body of the field?
He's listed as an AE.
Okay.
is he?
Hopefully he
Okay, he's
draws
not on
in.
mine. So
Yeah, hopefully he draws in, because I do think, there's just a boatload of speed in this race, and I'd like to have some exposure to a horse that's going to come off the pace.
Yeah.
He's my favorite, off the pace, mid-pack closer kind of runner in the field. I think that he just ran like a horse that was kind of antsy in the gate last time at Keeneland, maybe needed that start off of the very long way off. So I like Beer Can Man and Nothing Better. There's maybe 2 more off the pace runners I may look to include, but I get a feeling that one of y'all is going to talk about them. So I'll defer to Andrew.
All right. You may have noticed I perked up a little bit when Josh mentioned how he was against Artemis City Limits. Can we get a wellness check for Josh Rodriguez? Because we never agree. We don't. Not to this level of handicapping. I don't like Artemis City Limits at all in this spot, especially at his likely price. This is a horse that, in addition to, I don't think being a 5 furlong horse, I think there's every chance he's past his peak. This was a horse that ran some really nice races in the middle of last year at Belmont and Saratoga, ran okay later in the year at Keeneland, didn't show a whole lot last time in the Shakertown, which I understand was his first start in a pretty long time, but still, you have to think this race wasn't the goal, and it screams like it's a backup plan for something. I don't like that, especially when you're talking about a horse that's going to take money. Nothing Better is my top pick. We mentioned the race at Aqueduct last time out. Guys, I believe that was a new track record. This horse ran 6 furlongs in 106-4, led every step of the way. And Aqueduct's turf course is not a very fast turf course. It is not Belmont, which is green concrete. Aqueduct is legitimate grass. Another reason I'm really going to miss that place when it meets the business end of a bulldozer in a couple of years. But Nothing Better certainly seems like the right horse in here. Lots of early speed, gonna have to go from the rail, and certainly has the ability to take a decent field gate to wire. But the other horse I'm going to use is a horse, Josh, that I saw you had a couple of question marks by, and that's number 10, Coppola, who last time out ran very well at Churchill Downs beneath John Velasquez for the first time. He got a couple of pretty lousy trips, I thought, at Gulfstream Park earlier this year. He was up close to a scorching pace 3-back in the seasonal debut. That's not what he wants to do. He's not a stone closer, but he wants to be a couple lengths back and maybe get first run on the tiring pace setters turning for home. He didn't have a lot of chance to do a lot of running. 2 starts back, he was wide, still managed to run 4th. But you don't want to be 7th turning for home going 5 furlongs at Gulfstream either. They ship this horse to Churchill, gets Johnny Velasquez, and winds up running what I think is a career best race, winning by more than 4 lengths over a decent field. That to me is a similar strategy to what Caleb is talking about as far as exposure to a horse that's going to be doing their best running late. I think there's every chance Coppola finally has the right rider for what he wants to do. 1 in 10 for me in the third leg of the sequence.
I
So
already
with
know
Coppola,
Caleb's using the 10. I already know he is. Right? That's one of the horses you got.
That was one of the others I alluded to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to know how I
yeah.
know that shit? Look at this right here. Bam. Little Z pattern there.
A little bit.
So Andrew, I got to ask you with Coppola, isn't he? It doesn't that scream bounce off that last effort? You know, he runs a career top by an absolutely massive amount, and I think I didn't realize Briz kind of says that just looks like a normal race, but Bayer has that as being basically a 15-point career top, and he's about an 8 or a 10-point top on time for him. Isn't he supposed to bounce off that effort?
Maybe, but that's why you're getting 6-1 as opposed to 5-2. This horse isn't going to be favored. He's not going to be the second choice. It wouldn't shock me if this horse drifts up a little bit from that price, given how big the field is. Beer Can Man is probably going to take some money. If that horse was 5-2 or 3-1, am I as interested? Probably not. But if you're telling me he's probably going to be about 8-1, I think that's a very fair price.
Yeah, I share both. I share the bounce concern because the short rest is what scares me more so than the figure. Coming back on about 2 weeks, coupled with the figure, that is scary. But again, not a favorite. Going to get a decent enough price. So I do agree with Andrew. That's a horse that I want some exposure to probably.
And the short rest, by the way, doesn't concern me a whole heck of a lot. Dale Romans sometimes takes a while for his horses to get going. Like a while. Sometimes there's a long time between drinks. But when he gets a horse in the right spot, he has no hesitation firing back on short rest if a horse is in good form. And that last race was good enough to where if he thinks he's got a live horse 2 weeks later, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, Charles had asked me to pull up the plot, so I got there. I got this up here. Yeah, Charles saying the 3 plots well. I don't know what surface of distance if they couple in 5.5 with 5, so I'm a little unsure where that is. Obviously, like I said, I like the 12 and the 1 here as these Q1 squares, and I thought the 13, I mean, I think that's a great plot. Surprisingly, the 4 plots super well, but he doesn't have anything really great on the surface of distance plot. But I don't know. I think 13's the bet if the 13 draws in. I think that's just a big old square right there in the middle of the plot. But
there was a question too about the 5, I think, which was the other one that I kind of alluded to.
Smoking
He
Jay
should be doing his best running late. Fits in this race, almost won it last year. Looks good in the plot there. He's another that I kind of want some exposure to. I don't know. He's ran a couple stinkers lately, so it's a little tougher to strongly endorse him. But I do think that he's a horse that feels like he's supposed to run a good race in this spot.
I've always had a soft spot for this horse. I feel like this horse has run some really, really nice races at some pretty decent prices. Yeah, there was that race at Belmont. I think that we were on him where he closed into that race, that Ally Force, and he paid like 15-1. And I mean, he's been running into some really tough horses, but that's another thing. Like, I mean, the horse closed in 5 furlongs at Gulfstream, which is not easy to do. So, and like I said, one of the things I was looking for is a 5 furlong horse. So maybe Smoking Jay is another one I got to take a closer look at because I think especially I feel like the half furlong is much more punishing at shorter distances than it is at longer ones. Like if you have a horse that can go 1 mile and 16th, usually 1 mile and 1/8 is not that big of a deal. But I don't know. I feel like 5.5 and like. There's a big difference between 5, 5.5, and 6, especially on the different turf courses. So, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my ass. What do you think, Mark?
No, I think there is a big difference between 5.5 and 6. Like there's a point there. A lot of these sprinters are especially these shorter distances, are very, very specialized in what they like. So, I don't hate Smokin' Jay. Just a horse that recently has not really loved to win. I don't know why that suddenly is supposed to change here. Although I will say, any horse that's run at Colonial lately seems to be bringing the heat wherever they go. So
He won
maybe get a
two
point.
back. It's not like it wasn't like a
Yeah,
forever
and then
ago.
and he run 2 back, and then the last time he won before that was September of 2021. Like, I mean, you probably weren't even playing horses at that point.
I had him.
If I
I
can
had him in
point
that spot.
something out on this horse before we move on, doesn't this horse do his best running when he's really fresh? That race at Gulfstream came off of a very long layoff. He hadn't run since August, comes back in March, wins that race, and does it in a very fast time. You see 5 furlongs in 54 and 4. That's racehorse time.
Same thing for his May of 22 Pimlico race
Exactly,
as
when he
well.
ran
Yeah.
second in this very race last year. To me, that's a little bit of a red flag. This horse seems to run really, really well when he's fresh. That's a little bit of a concern for me in this particular spot. But Josh, I understand if you like this horse because, again, I think a lot of the 6-1 horses have the potential to drift up to 8-1, 10-1. And if some of these 6-1 morning line horses win and pay $20, that's going to cause a lot of handicappers to go, how did I not have this horse?
Yeah.
I do want to mention that Florida Crap Shooter says betting the come and pass line is what the casinos want you to do. So I need you. I need you to DM. I need you to DM me because this is some like I don't know conspiracy theory stuff. I love it.
Do we have the X-Files music somewhere? The truth is out there.
I don't.
Josh, I'm disappointed in you.
Boo! Boo!
Josh, you need another soundboard so you can have more things.
I mean, I can't have more things. I
need more
I got
things.
all of the stuff on there, and then I just haven't updated it really. Was there anything else that we want to talk about in this turf sprint?
God bless the soul of Jim McKay, one of my broadcasting heroes.
Aw. I respect that a lot.
Thank you.
I'll pretend like I know who that was, but we'll move on.
Josh! Have you been living under a rock for 30 years? Did you just miraculously come out, see that there was sun, see that there was human life? Where have you been?
At a work conference?
He was being
If
his
it's on their
authentic self.
tab, I'll allow it.
I am being my authentic self. Exactly. Thank you, Caleb. All right, race 12 here, the J.W. Murphy. And obviously, if you guys tuned in late, we're skipping around a little bit because we're covering the 2-day pick 5 here. So this is leg 4 of the 2-day pick 5. 100K race, 1 mile on the turf. I love that there's a bunch of turf races in here. Mark, you're the resident kind of weather person. Are we having any chances of weather this weekend?
So I'm a meteorologist now. No, there is no chance of weather. It appears there's a slight chance of rain late on Saturday, but it will not be enough to take anything off the turf.
All right. Well, we do have an 8-5 favorite in Najarok in here, and then Fantastic again at 3-1, and then it just it gets a little interesting after that. But let's see, Andrew. I guess this is my turn then to go first because I think all you guys have gone first. I had a tough time with this race, but I think I'm going to Caleb this one, and I'm just going to toss the 9 completely. I mean, horse doesn't like to win. Horse has got 2 wins, going 6 furlongs at Baqueduct. I don't know. This just seems like either a bad line or just a bad horse, or both.
Hang on.
But
bad horse? This
yeah.
horse ran 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and you're saying bad horse?
Yeah, I am.
So Josh, does class matter?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not. So I'm taking the E8 on the rail.
This is what you guys have to deal with every week?
Every single week.
The only thing that matters is the E and the 8. We got the 3 Cherry horse here. We got the Wesley Ward horse with John Velasquez getting aboard, who finished 3rd to none other than the rightful Kentucky Derby winner, Two Phils. I think that this horse is going to appreciate the cutback. going back to 1 mile. They tried to get this horse going a mile on the turf, got washed off at Saratoga. They ran in the Breeders' Futurity for some reason because they thought this was the dirt horse when this is clearly not. And then once this horse got on the fake stuff, going a mile, just started winning. I guess maybe Derby Fever got the best of them. They went a little too far, and they're cutting right back down to a mile. Fantastic, obviously by by More Than Ready here, who is like the quintessential miler. So I don't know. I think that this is going to set up nicely here for the one. Fantastic again gets Lasix for the first time. Johnny V sits fit to ride. Wire to wire winner for Wesley Ward and John Velasquez here. The one. Fantastic again. Single A. Caleb, where did you land?
So as far as Fantastic again goes, are you not concerned at all about a Western Yarn who's also quite quick? Maybe even top recruit. I know it's Rosario, but on the stretch out, I mean, you think the one is just that much quicker, or did you just go with the first E8 you saw?
I went with the first E8 I
Okay.
saw. Clearly, I didn't go. No, I mean he's inside drawn, and I don't know. I think if anything, Johnny V, actually, I was gonna say for all his faults, but I don't know if he really has any faults.
He's been riding well. I mean, he does what you should expect him to do.
Like if
Caleb, how your tune has changed.
Look,
he's been riding well the past 2 years.
Of all the big name jocks, right? All the big name jocks, say like the top 10 jockeys, right? And you're like, just don't do anything stupid. I mean, Johnny V is obviously the number one jock that you're going to go to, right? Like, it's not very often that you're like, what the fuck was he thinking?
That was the point I was just going to bring up. You're very rarely wondering, my goodness, what did Johnny V do there? What's going on? And you see some riders that win at 20%, where when they're not winning, you're asking, what the hell are you doing? There's very rarely anything like that with Johnny V. Of the reasons to not like Fantastic again, the jock isn't one of them.
So I guess what like to Caleb's point, what I'm saying is that like if a pace duel, like a complete meltdown type thing, starts to develop, I trust that Johnny V will not get involved in it. But I do think you bring up a fair point. There is a fair bit of other early speed horses in this race. So, maybe it does just set up for the 9, but I don't know. I just thought that the 1 had a bit of upside on the cutback, and that the 9 might just take a crap ton of money because they see Flavian Pratt for some reason and people like to bet him. I don't know why. And they see the fact that this horse ran in the BC Juvenile Turf, even though this horse just keeps on losing.
Yeah, I mean, circling back, I guess the reason I just asked about your horse here was like I struggled to figure out what to do with the 9. I really don't want to use all the short prices in this race, but that's like in my first pass, that's almost where I landed. I kind of would have liked to have seen Nagarok win one of those last 2. I'm certainly not going to hold the Breeders' Cup against him, where he ran second to 2 European horses that shipped over for Aiden and then Charlie Appleby. So there's no shame in that run whatsoever. The Santa Anita race is a little bit tougher for me to deal with. That was a race that just feels like he was supposed to win. And then in the Transylvania, I mean, he had every chance to run down No Stash, but he had a great trip and just couldn't get it done there either. Now, Webslinger obviously came out of that race and ran on Derby Day undercard in one of the American Turf, I think it was. And won the race at an enormous price. So
horrible beat for me. Horrible.
Yes. If you had, who did he beat in the photo?
It was the 2. I don't know what the horse was.
It was a short price horse, right? Was Rosario board? Was that
7-1? Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible beat there. I'm sorry. But, I guess that flatters his form a little bit, but at the end of the day, I do think this horse will be short, and the only race that I'm really impressed with is that juvenile race. So I elected to go other directions. I landed on kind of 2 horses in here. I'll talk about the longest price first, because I'm assuming Mark or somebody probably has the other one. But the one that I would probably guess nobody else likely has is the number 6 Moonstrike. Andrew's hand goes up. Oh yeah, we're in alignment. So yeah, this is a horse that certainly needs to get faster to win this race. I'm not going to contend with anyone that has that issue with this horse. He needs to come in with a career top if he wants to win this race. But he had a lot of trouble in that Keeneland race. He got checked very badly early. Was kind of just loping along toward the very back of the field. It was difficult to make up ground for most of the Keeneland meet on the turf. And then when Lannery did what Lannery does and stay on the rail, channeling his inner Rosario, and he was passing horses like with Lannery basically up in the irons, just like begging for a hole. He finally went to the fence and had a little bit of running room, passed like 3 or 4 horses, and then get shut off again. So this was a terrible trip. And I saw enough of how much horse it appeared that he had underneath of him to be willing to go back and bet him here at what should be 15, 20, 25 to 1. Because I think he's much better than his form would indicate. So I'm going to take a shot with Moonstrike. Andrew, you with me?
I'm with you. Guys, I'm going to need a little bit of help. So in looking at this race, I needed to do the old Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing, and I needed to phone a friend. For those that watch our show, Drank Champagne, I had to bring back the Beamy Award just to see Josh's head look like it's about to explode, just like it's about to right now. And
Josh, whose idea was it to bring him on? Whose idea, Josh? Why did we, Josh? Come on, Josh. We're better
like
than this.
Someone who didn't win a Beamy. At any rate, Beamy here says the race is going to completely fall apart. As a result, I want no part of Funtastic Again. Funtastic Again has no shot, regardless of the E8, regardless of how much Josh loves the horse, because in addition to, the whole tons of other early speed in the race thing, this horse has run on turf once and it went horrible. I know we like to think polytrack and turf are the same thing. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And at
Wolfie's Diana Ghost would like a word with you.
At 3 to 1, that is too short for Beamy to take. Now, I don't think Najarok goes off at 8 to 5. I think he drifts up just a little bit. He might wind up being favored, but I don't think it's a prohibitive favorite. And that's an alarm, by the way, solely because I brought out Beamy to come out and play.
There wasn't a scrolling bar. It was just a buzzer.
it was just a what the hell is going on here thing. But I'm using all the big numbers. Somebody mentioned our friend Coots earlier. I'm using numbers 6 through 9. Hi, Coots. How you doing? Moonstrike I liked for a lot of the same reasons that Caleb did. That was a horrible, horrible trip, and I think it's telling that Lannery is not back aboard today. Kingfish Stevens has the ability to run on late. Last time I thought moved just a little bit too early. Third place finisher, came right back to win. No issue there. I'm really intrigued by number 8, Wonderful Justice, and I'm seeing a couple of comments in the chat along those lines. That horse had a horrible trip last time out in the Transylvania, and that day's winner went to the front early and didn't stop. I'm more than willing to draw a line through that race and give him one more shot, and Najarok certainly has the talent to run well in here as well. I'm rooting for a closer, rooting for a big number, 4 deep in a 9-horse field. Come on, pace, collapse. I think that's what we're sitting on here.
Yeah, so I'll agree with Andrew here. I do think there's quite a bit of pace in this race, and I do think that this probably comes apart. I know, I don't know what metrics you're looking at on paper, but there's a bunch of horses here that arguably need to lead, and I think there's going to be a fair bit of pace on the front end. Andrew already mentioned the 8 Wonderful Justice, who I think is a major player in here. If it does come apart to some degree, that was an absolutely abysmal trip in the Transylvania, and at least we know this horse likes to win races, which is the opposite of Nagarok. Josh is taking a horse that is, because I'm running out of horses to take here. Josh is taking a horse here that is winless on turf. So I might as well take a horse that's also winless on turf. So I'm going to land on the 5, Circling the Drain. Brittany Russell right now is winning absolutely everything that's not tied down. She's hitting at 58%. This is hometown connections all the way around. And this is a horse that has a pedigree that says turf should be, right in his wheelhouse. And I know Brittany isn't great on her first time turf stat, but her dirt to turf moves are actually a pretty high percentage move for her. And, we know she's going to win one of these on this card. And in a race that I think kind of comes apart, I want somebody who's coming from out of it. And I think Circling the Drain is actually pretty interesting in here at what I will imagine you get every bit of that 8-1 morning line.
I would love to book you at 8-1 on that horse.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't like Circling the Drain here. And I know that Heavy on Toledo, who all due respect is a very good rider on the Mid-Atlantic circuit, isn't it telling that Brittany's husband isn't on this horse?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the 60% connections. Instead, she's going to go to the 40% jock with her.
Well, she's 53% with him on the meet so far this year.
I just don't think she can train turf horses.
Cool.
Hey, Bobby sent her a horse, didn't he?
Well, he can't train turf horses either. So.
De Jour has something to say to you. Or who, Andrew? You'll know this
That's
one.
a Bill Mott horse. What are you talking about?
Who was the turf horse that he won a graded stakes with that he didn't even realize that was running that day in the stakes race?
Oh, my goodness.
Was that shit? Kingley?
Yes, it was Kingley. Went wire to wire, right, with Abel Cedillo.
It was at
aboard.
yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. How would I remember stupid shit like that? But I don't even remember who
Rachel Alexandra is.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom Durkin is.
Yeah, no, I know who Tom Durkin is. He's the guy from that Steve Bick commercial.
My God, you're going straight to hell.
I mean, I probably got a fast pass. Anything else we want to talk about in this race? I did see some comments, Mr. Florida Crap Shooters, who already promised to send me his crap strategy so I can use it in Vegas, is coming up. He says that the 8 is the best bred horse in here and has an excuse last time out. I know you guys talked about that horse a little bit, so I know he was a fan here. Obviously, he's talking about the 9 here as kind of the class.
Clearly is new here and hasn't realized that class doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, for you it does, but for most of us it doesn't. And Ben Wilkie coming in fresh off his handicapping seminar he held in the Discord here. He says that the midshipman disrespect is noted.
So if I may jump in on this, because I gave this horse a look based on the pedigree, I just think this is one of several horses that needs the lead. And I don't think he's going to necessarily get the lead. Add in that he has not run since November. You can bet that horse without me, Ben. And if that horse beats me, he beats me.
All right. Anything else on this race? All right, let's move on to the big one. Single A, National Treasure in this race for me.
We do need a soundboard for Josh.
We really do.
One of us has to buy one now.
The way that Caleb, Mark, and I all simultaneously rolled our eyes. And I say that having used the horse. So obviously Mage, the only horse from the Derby to be running in here. There has been much ado meant or said about that this week. And then you get a couple horses that just missed, either weren't ready for the Derby or weren't allowed in the Derby. So obviously First Mission, I don't know how much credence there is to some of the buzz around Twitter, but we're going to assume that the horse is still in for all intents and purposes, unless you guys have seen anything to counter that.
The same person that told me Forte and Continuar were going to scratch told me that First Mission is going to scratch. So I tend to think it's true, but
yeah.
Okay. But you get a horse like Blazing Sevens in here, Red Route 1. You get a couple of horses that were on the trail and kind of got knocked off, and obviously National Treasure here. Caleb, as the noted chalk hater in the group here, are you using Mage?
I am using Mage actually. I just think this field came up really weak. So there's probably 3 horses in here. I guess no disrespect to the connections, but I mean, Chase the Chaos, Coffee with Chris. I mean, it would be extremely surprising if they won. Red Route 1, probably hits the board, but I'd be amazed if he pulls off the win. Perform visually, his last race looked really cool, but on paper it came back really slow. And I just don't see a ton in here. National Treasure probably is the threat to wire this field. So I see where you're going, Josh, but he's won one race in his career. It was a maiden. And then he's been beaten by some horses, Reincarnate, Newgate, Mandarin Hero, Skinner, Practical Move. I mean, two of those three scratched out of the Derby. Mandarin Hero, who did run, got every pace setup he could hope for and just still didn't run a step. So I'm just not really convinced about National Treasure being quite that good. And I kind of have the same issue with First Mission, whether he's in or not. I hope that he's in because I don't like First Mission in here personally.
Ditto. My sentiments exactly. Thank you.
I hope he runs. I don't think the Lexington was that good. I know that it came back fast on paper, but he struggled to beat Arabian Lion, who I don't think much of. I just don't think that First Mission's that good, but I think he's going to take a lot of money. So all that to say that basically I like Mage. I don't think he's this deep closer that he was in the Derby or that he has to be. I mean, he literally wired his debut and then sat a length off in his in the Fountain of Youth. So I think that he can be way more tactical than he's shown in his last two starts. I think he's a horse that only gets better with experience. He only gets better with racing, a little bit more mature, a little more professional. There's obviously the risk that he regresses off that Derby race on just 2 weeks of rest, but I think an 80% regressed Mage still probably wins this race. So I'm not getting super creative. I like Mage. There's one other horse in here that I do like, but in case anyone else had him, I will hold off on going there and see what Mark came up with.
No, I'll keep it pretty simple. I'm all about Mage here. I think there's a few horses in here that have to go. Really? No, I think there's a few horses in here that have to go. I think if Mage breaks his normal step slow, he's going to get an absolutely perfect setup. Couple of horses in front of him, and he just has to fire late. I think this field came up somewhat soft. I'm not really impressed with some of the West Coast shippers that are last minute additions, a la National Treasure. And I think Mage just kind of trips out and is the best horse. I don't really see anything, anything to go against, to really push against him. I really wanted to be high on somebody like Blazing Sevens. But man, he just really hasn't shown much. He seems like a kind of a smoke horse, who I really wanted to get behind and I really wanted to like, and Chad does have has won this race a few times. I really wanted to like him, but no, I'm all about Mage in here, and I will eat my chalk and spread other places.
I might be playing some Blazing Sevens next week.
If I may, can Mr. Champagne talk about the Champagne winner?
No. Let's hear it.
Waka. I don't like the horse. I just wanted an excuse to use the line. Blazing Sevens is 0 for 3 around 2 turns and hasn't been particularly close. I understand why they skipped the Kentucky Derby, because the horse wouldn't have had any shot in the Kentucky Derby going 1.25 miles. Much better chance to hit the board going 1 3/16 miles against 7 horses than it is for a horse that isn't bred to go 1.25 miles to do so against 19 other horses at Churchill Downs. So I understand why they did that. But, what I think I need to do, I think I need to hire Caleb to parrot all of my talking points, because we agree a lot. Yet when I say stuff, I get thrown into a fire. And when Caleb says stuff, everyone marvels at how handsome he is. So
yeah,
there's a double standard. I'm just saying.
You should have been born prettier, Andrew. That's really what it comes down to. I have the same problem. So, I get it.
So,
I feel for you.
But yeah, Mage, all things being equal, should not lose this particular race. It's on to Belmont, but unfortunately, because Durkin is on the call, he can't win there. That and Pletcher is going to have 2 monsters absolutely loaded for that particular race, given everything we know that happened leading up to the Kentucky Derby. The other horse that I'm using is Josh's horse. Just on the off chance National Treasure gets what I'm going to call the Oxbow trip, where he gets left alone up front. They run a half and say 48 and change, 49, and he forgets to stop. And if this track is playing kindly to early speed, like it sometimes does on big days, on big Preakness days, where horses up front have a decided schematic advantage, National Treasure may very well be a value play, but he is not the most likely winner in this race. Far and away, that's Mage. I loved Caleb's point about how he's not a deep closer. This is a horse that has had to close because of some of the gate issues that he has had in the past. He wound up winning the Kentucky Derby, not because he was so far back and so far out of it with such a fast pace in front of him. He won because that was the best horse, and he won despite a trip that isn't necessarily in his wheelhouse. And also, let's not forget, Forte beat him twice, and a healthy Forte would have jogged. Jogged! And
DJ
Josh,
underscore, I'm scrolling. I went all the way back.
You've been sitting on that comment, and if you give me just a minute, give me just a second, I will be right back.
Oh, boy.
It's all right. Josh can spend the next minute Googling who Oxbow was.
Yeah, I don't know who Oxbow is. But I will say, I think to Andrew's point, right? If you have a horse that, beat, oh God.
Sometimes, kids, your best bets don't win.
It was never going to cash, buddy.
15-1 on a horse that would have jogged.
I mean, you're insane. If you watch the Florida Derby and you watch them cross the wire, Forte was desperate. He was absolutely done. He sat himself up, and Mage was flying late. I think you're insane. I don't think Forte wants to go
How
any
could
further
a
than he
horse
went.
have been flying late when the horse that won passed him?
I think Mark's
on the run out.
Yeah.
I may have had too much bourbon.
But first of all,
sorry.
let's roll it back a little bit, because there's a horse in this race that broke its maiden against who should have been the eventual Derby winner.
Oh, for the love
Right.
of God, get off
And
of two
then
pills.
ended up no.
Whoa,
I'm-
whoa, hold on,
No,
hold
no,
on.
no,
Pop
no, no.
the kettle.
No, I'm talking about Practical Move, who would have just
Practical
dummied
fucking laugh off the
Mage in
track.
that race. But National Treasure obviously broke his maiden against Practical Move, so I mean it's just as good as beating the Derby winner, right?
You beat the Derby 13th place finisher.
Yeah, hey, at least someone feels sorry for you, Andrew. You show up for a
Poor
stream, and you
Andrew.
get
Thank
a
you,
poor
Charles.
Andrew.
I appreciate you. I appreciate
There's never a poor
the hell
Mark.
out of you.
There's never a poor Mark. All that happens in chat is people just dump on him, right? At least you get a poor Andrew. Unless he's talking about Road Warrior, who said he's late as hell, but he is here. Another Andrew. Yeah, I thought I don't know. I thought the plot was a little interesting here. Obviously, they got first mission as a big old Q1 square. But if he does scratch, I think that just literally makes me love National Treasure even more. So I'm having a hard time because I hate being against a short price favorite and liking the second and third choices, because I feel like that's usually a bad bet and usually an underlay. So I got some more thinking to do on this. I do really like National Treasure in this spot, but it does, at least on paper, it looks like a horse like First Mission has got a pretty significant pace advantage in this race. But I don't know. Maybe optics could also be wrong. I don't know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, how are you guys going to attack this race? I mean, this is kind of a short field, right? It's not like the Derby where you get 20 horses and exactas and tries and stuff are ballooned up. I mean, are you guys only playing this race like horizontally, essentially, not vertically at all?
So I wrote a column earlier today before news started breaking about First Mission potentially scratching. And my play was a Dave Weaver style ice cold exacta, Mage over National Treasure. Because if you think Mage is the most likely winner, and he may very well be, there's no reason to take the price he will be in the win pool when there are ways to extract value out of that runner. I would have preferred first choice over third choice and potentially turning 8-5 into 8-1 with that sort of ice cold exacta strategy. But if First Mission scratches, that's not going to pay squat. and that hurts.
Yeah, I'll be very horizontally focused here. I'll hopefully have something like doubles pick threes, maybe a 2-day pick five, something like that, live going into this race, and that's my approach here. I think I don't know. I mean, I think Mage. Well, I shouldn't say Mage is the best horse in this race. I think the gap to the second best horse is pretty substantial, and I don't know who clunks up for second or third in a double or a try. I'm not smart enough to come up with that. There are people who are much better at that than I am. I'll just try to be levered into Mage, and in my whatever wagers I'm live in.
Yeah, I think for me, horizontally, it's Mage and maybe like a B or C type ticket going to National Treasure. Vertically, I'm going to leave. I hope First Mission stays in because he makes none of my tickets horizontally or probably vertically. I think he's going to be overbet, and I just don't think he's that good. I'm going to try to work in Blazing Sevens. I think I'm more of a Sheets guy, more of a pattern guy, form cycle guy. He returned his 2-year-old top in that Bluegrass effort, albeit he was a distant third. And I agree with Andrew that more distance I don't think helps this horse. But I think Chad Brown has a way of, early voting last year. I mean, getting a little more out of his horse than the horse probably should be able to get. And I don't think he can win, but I think he's a good key for, second or third. So probably doing something like a Mage over National Treasure and Blazing Sevens and a trifecta maybe.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be just completely horizontal in this spot. I also it was funny. I had originally taken a couple days off work to do basically for all the Triple Crown races, and then I realized okay, really, who needs Black Eyed Susan Day off? That's never so.
Our friend Matt will be on track.
Oh yeah, Matt DeSantis will be on track. I don't think there's any bread pudding for him to taste, like we did at Saratoga. But I'll probably just be horizontal here. Although it's funny, during the stream, I checked my phone. My aunt texted me. That she wants to play some straight tries because I don't know, she's
Is this
got
the same aunt that texted you last time?
Yeah, it is, and she was not close. But she wants the 3-1-4 straight for $20 and the 3-5-7 straight for $20. I don't think that's gonna pay. Mage, National Treasure, and Coffee with Chris. Well, that's a little spicy.
I mean, HTR loves Coffee with Chris. I don't think this horse has a chance to get the distance, but if this was like a 1-turn mile, this horse would have a shot. Maybe.
Yeah.
Speedball that holds on late on a speed favoring track. I mean, if the
maybe if Pimlico
crazy
goes,
speed favoring, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, if Pimlico's, I could see it.
Yeah.
I love how you just used Pimlico as a verb.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's going to be a fun. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. There's some nice horses racing. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be a huge money making opportunity. Just from first glance, right? You get a couple of key scratches and everything kind of turns on its head. And I haven't gone through the full card yet, but. Just taking a glance, it did look a little bit chalky. Andrew, I know you've written stuff I think already for Catino. Is there anything else on these next 2 days? Any particular play that you liked?
I mean, the big one actually turned out to be in the Hilltop on Friday that we already talked about with horse number 11 in race number 11 on Friday. That being Well Into, who I'm really hoping goes out early and improves positioning at 5-1 on the morning line. They're 2 days of good cards. Even if the racing isn't as insanely high, top tier quality as maybe we saw 2 weeks ago, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of very good betting races with big fields at a really cool racetrack. I understand Pimlico is a dump. I love that place. I am so partial to tracks where you want to hear the walls talk because of everything that they've seen there. Unfortunately, by the way, we did have a casualty earlier this week. I don't know if you saw, and this is incredibly heart-wrenching stuff. The Pimlico press box elevator finally gave up the ghost.
It did. It did.
It was not a Preakness without at least one elevator malfunction with a reporter of note in the elevator. However, it did die a fiery death. And as a result, NBC had to set up a temporary freight elevator outside of the grandstand with which to truck equipment up to the press box, up to the announcer's booth. And the media is invited to use it. But having seen it, I understand my dear friend Joe Neville's and his hesitation to doing that, because it kind of looks like a low-budget thrill ride at an amusement park.
Yeah, to Andrew's point here, I think this may not be the best card that you've ever seen, racing basically anywhere, but there are a lot of pick fives here, and there's a lot of low takeout pick fives. Those are very player friendly. And if you take a look at the sequence and you have some opinions some places, there's probably a pick five that that links together
12.
those basic 12.
There are 12 pick fives in the next
They
2
are
days.
all low takeout.
How many are you gonna play, Josh?
13.
I'll probably play. I'm definitely playing this 2-day. I'm gonna take a look at the dirt 2-day. I haven't capped all those races yet, and then I'll probably play all of the ones on Saturday.
Yeah.
There's
And
not.
his eyes just was like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anything's getting played tomorrow. Unfortunately, I am going to be. I'm gonna be at a work conference, and it's very much.
Don't have
It's
Wi-Fi?
very much a small. It's like 25 of us in like a conference room. So it's like I can't like hide in the back in hundreds and like look on my phone. So I'll have to behave tomorrow. So.
Frequent bathroom breaks, Josh.
Oh no, I can't do that.
Every
Does
like
anyone want a
30-ish minutes.
snack? I will be back in approximately 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Andrew knows.
Yeah.
But I will say we as horse players should be supporting these low takeout wagers, especially when tracks are offering them. You may not love this card, but there's definitely value to be had here if you can get around. And I think we've offered some opinions on how to get around some of these chalks. So play some pick fives. It's good for the game.
Dude, they didn't even have donuts today, Charles. They had Danishes and like muffins.
What the hell kind of conference doesn't have donuts?
I mean,
They have coffee at
look,
least?
I work for a state. They did have coffee. That's Starbucks coffee.
I'd ask
so it
for
was
my
burnt.
money back, Josh. I'm just saying.
I didn't have to pay for it. It was something I was invited to
Ask for
by
money
the
anyway.
university.
That's right.
There is a Starbucks in the same building, and my coworker went downstairs and got a Starbucks during a break, and I was like, that was a very smart decision. Like this is why you're at this leadership conference, because you make good decisions like this. And so I will probably follow suit tomorrow. Oh man, there was something else I was going to ask, but now I'm blanking. Oh, so Caleb, next year, right? Next year, you're still going to be in your program come Preakness time, right?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So 2 years from now, right? So not next year, but the year after, we are going to go to Pimlico, and I hope it's still in the same decrepit shape as it's in now. And I do you think we would survive the infield?
Oh no.
No.
So we're going
No.
to the infield.
No,
We are
I
absolutely
always
going to
try
the
to make
infield,
Field.
dude.
Guys, I've been there multiple times. Okay.
Did you win your race? Did you
I'm
win?
sorry?
Did you win your race?
Yes.
Porta potty.
Porta potty race?
No.
You
I
beat
was
somebody.
there, and I wound up. I remember the name of the horse. It was a 2-year-old named Debt Ceiling, trained by John Robb. I gave it to a bunch of frat boys. The horse won at 5-2, and for like 20 minutes, I was God. It was great.
You were a king for 20 minutes.
Hey, for however long it took them to drink a beer.
That's right.
Hey, he was a king for 20 minutes, and then he crowned himself king for about 30 days after Lord Miles won the
30 days?
Yeah.
It's been more than 30
and
days
then he's
since that
got
race
Beamy over
happened.
there.
It hasn't
Oh,
ended
my
yet.
God.
So,
But
Okay.
yeah, guys.
Yeah. So on a serious note, by the way, and this is a gift for those of you that have stuck around for more than an hour and 40 minutes.
God bless you.
If you can't see the Lord Miles stuff that I do is shtick, you are stupid. You are seriously criminally stupid. If you genuinely think that I go around doing the Santino Marella victory trombone, going like this, Lord Miles, Lord Miles. No! How is this so hard for some people to understand? And that's the present. If you've stuck around this long and listened to us talk about this 2-day pick 5 on Preakness Day, yeah, that's your gift. If you seriously think I believe what I type when I go into wrestling promo mode, you're part of the problem.
Josh, can we get some clips of that for a soundboard?
Yeah, I will. I will take care of this. But hey, guys, I appreciate all you guys sticking around and engaging in chat. Trying to keep up with chat has been getting harder and harder lately, so I appreciate that. Andrew, thank you for joining us today. We'll have an episode of Drinking Champagne out sometime this weekend. Originally, it was going to be we were going to record tonight, but I think we're going to have to push that back.
I'm just getting warmed up.
I know you're just getting warmed up, but I think we got to
It's
put
all
you to
hopped
bed.
up on Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. We'll be around in Discord. I know I'll be around Saturday. Mark, I know you'll probably be around both days. Caleb is going to pretend to work, I think, tomorrow.
I'll be around Saturday.
Yeah, but he'll be around Saturday. Appreciate you guys checking in on therwronglead.com at wrong_lead. Andrew will tell you to hit all the buttons, subscribe,
all the buttons,
comment, leave a review, do whatever you got to do. And I'll be in Vegas next weekend, so I'm going to play this music. So we will catch you guys later. No outro.